special chapter, the exam. Endelgian, the magical city, Friday, August 14th, 1998. Danny awakens early on the morning of her evaluation, a series of tests that will determine whether or not she will be accepted as an apprentice to Master Juvit Diota. The girl splashes water on her face and stares into the mirror. All right, girl, today is the day. Sink or swim. If I nail this, I get to stay here in Endelgian. If I fail, I have to go back to Rockland and my shitty life there. She thinks of her drunkard mother and her abusive boyfriends. Danny slaps her cheeks and tries to bring focus to her thoughts. I can't fail. I have to do this. Going back to that life is no longer an option. I've committed myself to this. I've committed to becoming a magician here. After getting dressed, Danny is greeted outside her room by Alor Kever and Manel Karyani, other pupils of Master Diota. Having become her closest friend in Endelgian these past few weeks, Alor has worked with Danny, readying her as best as she can for the examination. Are you ready? Alor asks. Danny nods. I stayed up almost all night making last-minute preparations. I don't think there's anything else more that I can do to get ready. Manel sighs. That wasn't very smart. You're going to need a lot of stamina to get through your evaluation. Going into the exam tired is about the worst thing you can do to prepare. Alor shoves him. Ignore that stick in the mud. You'll be just fine. Manel has always been a downer. Manel frowns, insulted. I'm not a downer. I'm merely telling her that the exam is going to be taxing. She'll need her full stamina and then some just to get through all the tests. Danny thinks back to her battles against Yamura at Schaefer's dojo in the sheriff's department. I can handle anything they have in store for me. That's the spirit, Alor smiles. She looks over at Manel. See? She's going to ace this thing and get to stay here with us. The teens head downstairs and join Master Diota and 5 younger teens and adolescents. Alor and Manel recognize only one person out of the group, fellow apprentice Just Conrad. A few years older than them, the teens assume that Just will be taking the exam to become a provost today. Good morning, Master Diota says to the teens as they arrive downstairs. Let me introduce you to the other prospective apprentices that will be joining Danny in the exam today. This is Paisley Uyuha, Wendelin Kamakashi, Deontay Yoworth, and Miera Kristen. Danny guesses that all 4 of them are in the age range of 12 to 14. She is the eldest of all the examinees going for apprenticeship. While it is disheartening to know that she is taking an exam meant for children, Danny is filled with more confidence of her success. She has several years of life experience over the other prospects, and should be able to outperform them. Grab breakfast and join us outside. We will travel to the testing site together, Master Diota says. Danny, Alor, and Manel sit at a table and begin to eat. Any pointers? I know both of you took the entrance exams years ago. You're going to be judged harder than those kids or even we were. You're going to be evaluated as a third-year apprentice. You'll be required to perform tasks that they will not, Manel says. I know that, Danny groans. That's why I've been training. I was hoping for a few pointers, not a wet blanket. You already know that they're going to test your proficiency with elemental magic and simple conjuring, Alor says. You'll be required to manifest each of the elements and combine them into simple 2-component spells. You'll also be tested on your physical condition, but that will most likely be your easiest examination. Combat-wise, you're already much more skilled than any other apprentice. Don't be too cocky about it, though, Manel cautions. If the examiners feel as though you're too sure of your abilities and not being pushed enough, they'll increase the difficulty of your testing. Got it. Danny nods, drinking a glass of orange juice. And then there's the formation of new spells. That will be the most trying part of the examination, Manel says. Do you already have something in mind? Every time I thought I had an idea, it would turn out someone else had already come up with it before. I'm not sure there are any undiscovered spells out left to create." "Of course there is," Manel says, annoyed. "Is your imagination that limited that you really can't think of anything? The possibilities are endless. You just have to think more creatively." Allura begins to panic. "We leave for the testing site in just a few minutes, and you still haven't come up with an original spell? Why didn't you tell me earlier? This is bad." Danny shrugs. "It'll all work out. I'm not all that concerned." She does her best to hide her own nervousness from her friends, and she doesn't want them to worry. After breakfast, the teens rejoin their master outside of his dormitory. Master Deoda hands Danny a folded teal-colored tunic. She assumes this will make her stand out as one of the prospects, since the other four are also wearing the same teal robes. And in Delgion, each ranking is marked with a different colored robe. At the lowest level are the prospective apprentices. Above them are the apprentices, who have been accepted and assigned to a master for training. These official apprentices wear green-colored robes. Between apprentice and master is the rank of provost. Provosts wear maroon-colored robes. Master-level magicians wear dark blue robes, and those that promote above that station are then accepted into the ranks of the elders and are given all black robes to wear. Branching off from the master ranking are the Knights of Solomon. To become a knight, one must be at least the ranking of master, but can far exceed the abilities of even some elders. The knights wear white robes, but don protective vests and armor over a white tunic and pants in combat situations. "When I first met you in my hometown, you wore a green robe," Danny says to Manel. "Why do you have two different colors of clothing?" "Provost Karyani took his test for promotion a few months ago, but his approval has only recently been ratified by the elders. There were some issues with his test results that had to be looked into further," Master Deoda says. "But it has all been straightened out now." Danny gives Manel a strange look of silent judgment. "I didn't cheat on my test, if that is what you're thinking. One of the examiners went rogue after the test, and fled to the mortal world. Everyone who took part in his examination had to be vetted further to ensure that they had no ties to the Dark Mage." Danny thinks of the rogues Elian Schaefer and Adrian Scrimauer. Are magicians going rogue really that common of an occurrence? More common than any of us would like, as much as we try to look into the background and motivations of a prospect. There are those with dark leanings that slip through our notice until it's too late, Master Deoda says. It's unfortunate in the case of Dennis Prosper. He was a former Knight of Solomon, an apprentice, and third seat of Captain Erisai. His defection to dark magic was especially hurtful to our morale. Located outside the Hall of the Elders and near the training grounds of the Knights of Solomon, Danny is surprised to see a crowd of over 100 people have already gathered in anticipation of the day's events. The city's elders exit their chambers and gather on a raised set of bleachers constructed around the training grounds. Standing beside the elders are Captain Akanzi Erisai, Lieutenant Vadas Nando, and recently promoted third seat Tanjiro Tamagai of the Knights of Solomon. "Welcome, everyone," Elder Guerin says. "We are pleased to gather today to test the skill and determination of several of your peers. As you know, once a year you are able to request an examination to determine if you are qualified enough to advance in title. Today, 5 provosts will attempt to prove themselves as masters, while 11 apprentices will show us if they have what it takes to advance to provost themselves. In addition to these promotions, many of the masters of our city have submitted youths from the outside world for apprenticeship. A total of 45 have been registered today as pledges for admittance into our ranks. We wish all of you the best of luck, and we hope to see impressive sights from each and every one of you." Third seat Tamagai steps forward. "The first test today will be for the prospective apprentices. Please gather in the center of the training grounds, and evaluations will begin shortly." Danny moves to the center of the makeshift arena with the 44 other young prospects. Elder Falv greets them on the grounds, ready to begin their first test. The most fundamental aspect of casting magic is the ability to visualize the various forms of energy that compose a spell. The ability to control the energy of the 6 primary elements of fire, water, air, earth, spirit, and dominion is crucial. If one cannot establish this core, one will never be able to succeed with spellcrafting, Elder Falv says. All spells are rooted in the usage and control of these primary elements. You will each be evaluated on your ability to visualize the energy of these elements and how to manifest each. Danny notices that the Elder has omitted the elements of light and darkness from the evaluation. She guesses that they must avoid the 2 extremes for apprentices, as they are far too dangerous for new mages. The prospects each take their turns being evaluated. While most are able to perform the manifestation of fire, water, air, and earth energy, almost a third of them fail to conjure spirit or dominion energy. Danny is last to showcase her abilities, and she is required to perform more difficult tests than the others, as expected. Miss Livingston, I ask that upon each manifestation of an element, you infuse a small amount of spirit energy into them in order to create an elemental wisp, Elder Falv says. Danny performs these tasks with no difficulty, having practiced this extensively with Allure over the past few weeks. She is able to easily create elementals of fire, water, air, and earth. Upon evaluation of the 2 final required energy types, Elder Falv requests Danny to combine them and give the elementals sentience. To demonstrate your affluence with spirit and dominion magic, please conjure another elemental of your choice and infuse it with enough spirit to give it a semblance of life. Then use dominion to bind that elemental to a simple command, Elder Falv says. Danny nods and creates a flame elemental. The shapeless fire dances in the air mindlessly. As Danny imparts it with more spirit, the elemental's movements gain purpose and the creature forms a primitive sentience. Before the elemental can choose to move independently, Danny infuses dominion from her own energy to bind the creature to her will. Please write hello on the ground, Danny orders. The fire elemental does as instructed and writes a fiery hello in the dirt. Well done, Elder Falv says with a smile. You may dismiss your conjuring. The next phase of the testing is set up after the current apprentices and provosts are evaluated on their levels of conjuring and fundamentals. Danny is surprised that required performance level of a provost is not beyond her own ability. The tasks in which the bound elementals are expected are only slightly more complex in their difficulty. The teen is fairly confident that she could do the same if needed. Elder Falv leaves the testing ground to rejoin the others in the stands. Captain Erisai and his officers take to the grounds for the next phase. The Knights of Solomon are both respected and feared by the other mages, and the prospects are in awe of the power of the 3 men. As a mage of Endelgion, it is vital for one to be capable of protecting yourself and your peers from harm. Physical conditioning and proficiency in combat are necessary for one's success here. Each of you will be evaluated on your physical fitness, as well as your ability to defend yourself and others, Captain Erisai says. Please stretch out and form into 3 groups based on your ranking. Apprenticeship pledges will be taken by 3rd Seat Tamagai of the Knights of Solomon to be evaluated. Those already an apprentice who are seeking to advance to provost will be tested by my lieutenant, Vatus Nando. The rest of you, who believe you are ready for the ranking of master, shall be tested by myself. Each of these evaluations will be specialized appropriately for the level at which you are expected to perform. As the examinees congregate by level, Vatus waves over to Danny to get her attention. Danny, over here, he shouts, still waving. Danny approaches him hesitantly. She is unsure what he is carrying on about. You'll be evaluated with this group. With your previous experience in martial arts, Captain Erisai and the elders agreed that it would be unfair for you to test with the other prospects. Held to a higher standard, huh? Danny sighs. Vatus shrugs. Do you doubt that you can keep up? Danny pushes past him to stand with the provost hopefuls. Guess I have to prove myself even to you. Several of the apprentices become irritated by the special treatment of the outsider. "What is this crap?" Apprentice to Master Lamia Bo, Jung Andre, asks his friend, Bora Manoj, apprentice to Master Robbie Bonolo. "Vatis wants to show off his authority and impress the girl," Apprentice Maloj says. "She probably isn't all that great in the first place." Vatis glares at the judgmental duo. "Do you have an issue with Miss Livingston testing alongside you?" Danny shirks back, fearing the negative attention this confrontation will surely bring. "Yeah," Apprentice Andre says. "Who the hell is she to skip testing with the other rookies? She isn't our equal. Look at her robes. She's a damn prospect. She hasn't even been accepted and you're going to put her with us? You can't expect us to slow down and babysit her. She will only get in our way," Maloj says. Vatis smiles. "If any of you can outperform Danny in these trials, I will give you the blessing of the Knights in your petition for rank change." The others whisper to each other in shock. The blessing of the Knights is as good as a stamp of approval, regardless of one's performance in any of the other exams. "You're going to regret putting her up on a pedestal," Maloj says. "Captain Erisai will not be pleased that you put the reputation of the Knights on the line for this outsider." "What are you doing?" Danny asks, pulling Vatis aside. "You're painting a target on my back." Vatis only smiles in response. "I'm confident that you will rise to the occasion and show everyone what I know you're capable of doing." Vatis leads the group to a line painted on the street a few blocks away from the training grounds. The first 2 participants to return to this spot will pass the test. Everyone else will fail. The route around the city is a 20-mile run. Use any magic necessary to pass, so long as you run the entire route. No shortcuts, teleportation, or flying is permitted. You will be on a 30-minute timer. If no one returns here in that time, no one passes this phase of the test, and no one will move on to phase 2. Are we all clear? Danny's eyes widen in surprise. A 20-mile run in half an hour? We'd have to run faster than a deer to pass that. Bloj grins, stretching out. Sounds like someone can't cut it. "Participants ready," Vatis shouts. He draws his sword and raises it into the air. "On my mark, begin." He slashes the blade down through the air, and the runners take off in a flash. The participants jet away from the starting line in a blur, leaving behind a thick cloud of smoke. Danny swats at the smoke, coughing. "You had better catch up," Vatis tells her. "Do not forget you are being tested on magic, not just your running ability." It finally clicks on Danny's head how the others were able to get off to such a fast start. Creonle. They've increased their physical speed through a spell. Casting an enhancement spell on herself, Danny speeds off in pursuit of the others. Maloj senses someone coming up behind him and glances back to see an apprentice to Master Giorthal approaching quickly. Indamarion. Maloj pivots, skidding back several feet as he transforms the street into a muddy swamp. Unable to evade, the other apprentice trips and falls into the mud. "Better luck next year," Maloj laughs, returning to the run. Across the route, the mages attempt to sabotage each other in the hopes that they will be one of the 2 to finish the race. Up ahead, Danny catches sight of the 2 rearmost runners. The apprentices sense Danny's approach and attempt to remove her from the race with several bursts of magical fire. Because they are running while attacking, the blasts do not hit their intended target. Danny begins to realize that anything goes during the race, and the other competitors will attack her in order to try and ensure that their spot is in the final 2. "Garuda Nostra!" Danny shouts, blowing the runners ahead of her off the path and against the side of a building. 2 can play that game. Danny catches up on the heart of the pack as Maloj continues to eliminate anyone who becomes a threat to his lead. Andre finally catches up, moving from near the back to second position. How many are left back there? Meloge asks. I took most of them out on my way up. I didn't see anyone else remotely close. Meloge nods with satisfaction. Good. We've got this thing in the bag. A streak of light flashes ahead of the two runners and explodes in their faces with stone. The duo are forced to stop and assess the threat. From behind, Danny approaches rapidly. That bitch nearly took us out, Meloge growls. How did she catch up so fast? Andre asks. She must be a faster runner to begin with, Meloge says, annoyed. He hates that the outsider might be better than him. When she used Crionle, it enhanced her higher stats and made her much faster than our lower base speed. Well, she has to get past us if she wants the top spot, Andre growls. Vadas did say that anything goes except cheating the course. The two mages prepare to attack, visualizing the symbols for various spells. As Danny nears, the first volley of magic is unleashed. Halvaus! Andre screams, attempting paralysis. Danny throws her hands out and deflects the spell with a magical barrier. Nix! Meloge shouts, dispelling Danny's barrier just as Andre casts another paralysis. Crionle! Danny quickly increases her stats further, allowing herself to leap high above the attack. Halvaus! Andre attempts to hit Danny midair with paralysis. Her speed is now 4 times faster than base, and she easily evades, countering with wind magic. Garudinastra! Danny's spell hits Andre in the chest and drives the air from his lungs. Get up! Meloge shouts as his friend gasps for air. Danny darts between them and strikes Meloge with a hard kick to the face. By the time either of the two apprentices come to, they have been lapped by several of the other runners and finished the race near the very end of the pack. Well done, Danny, Vadas says. I knew you could do it. Danny leans over, catching her breath. It was a lot easier once I started playing the same game as everyone else. Vadas nods. Don't forget that you have both magic and physical training at your disposal. Relying on either one too much is a recipe for failure. Several of the other magicians glare at Danny with jealousy. Once Vadas feels that they have rested enough, he leads them back to the training grounds. Your final test of this round will be one-on-one combat. If you render your opponent unconscious or unable to continue battling, you pass. Killing is strictly prohibited. Anything else can be repaired by the medical unit. Stand by for your pairings, Vadas says. After 45 minutes of intense matches, Danny is called forward. She looks around for her opponent, but sees that all the other participants of Vadas' group have either been eliminated or have already competed in a match. Do I win by default? Danny asks. Vadas laughs. You wish it were so easy. It has been decided that your opponent will be Provost Maxwell Scioto, who is fighting for his promotion to Master. You have to be kidding me. Not at all. The way you handled yourself in the race has gotten you noticed. The elders wish to see what else you're capable of. A black youth of about 23 steps forward and begins to stretch out. You're fucking with me, aren't you, Vadas? Vadas shakes his head. I'm not the one who set this match up. Just don't take her lightly or you're going to be upset with yourself for the next year. Allura leans forward in her seat, shocked by what she sees. What are they doing? This isn't fair at all. That guy's going for his master ranking. Manel thinks hard, carefully judging the situation. Maybe they don't expect her to win. Maybe they just want to see how well she performs. That doesn't make it any better. No one else has had to jump through all these hoops to prove themselves. What do they have against Danny? Her association with a rogue magician and dark magic for starters. They don't trust her, knowing she has ties to both Schaefer and Scrimauer. But she's never even met Scrimauer. That doesn't matter to them. She participated in the ritual to bring Ymura into our world, and Ymura's human host trained with Scrimauer. It's guilt by association. Don't count her out so easily, Master Deota speaks up. Dani has already demonstrated she can perform far better than an apprentice should at her level. She may surprise most everyone and come out of this battle with a victory. Vatus draws his sword and holds it between the fighters. This is it, he says. The final test of physicality. Are you ready? Dani nods. Are you ready? He looks at Maxwell, who also nods. Then begin. Vatus raises his sword and the two fighters immediately clash. Dani and Maxwell trade punches and kicks at incredible speeds, pushing each other's physical limits without the use of any magic. The first fighter to break and be forced to cast a spell will be delivered a critical blow to their confidence. Dani connects with a hard right, but Maxwell turns and hooks her arm, pulling the teen into an elbow to the face. Dani staggers, blood spraying from her nose. Maxwell pivots, kicking Dani in the chest and knocking her to the ground. The Great Hope isn't as tough as she thought, Maxwell scoffs, standing over Dani. I don't know why they put you up against me. You aren't ready for someone like me. Dani stands, brushing herself off, and lowers into a fighting stance. You think that hurt? Just tell me when you're done warming up and we can start this fight for real. Maxwell grinds his teeth together in aggravation. You're awful cocky for a rookie. Dani rushes the provost, pushing him back on defense. Maxwell is surprised at the girl's speed and precision. Each shot, if landed, would be a critical blow. She's a freak, Maxwell thinks. No rookie should be this powerful without any formal training. She's either a liar, or she's too dangerous to be allowed to join us. Either way, I have to stop her from passing this test. Maxwell throws his arms out to the sides. Magical energy collects all around the young man, forcing Dani to back off in caution. Equip magic. Legendary siphon armor, Maxwell says, encasing himself in a bright glow. As the glow fades, the young man is now wearing a bulky suit of white and gold armor. Incredible, Dani whispers. It is, isn't it? Maxwell brags. It also means you're finished. There's no way to defeat me. Dani leaps at Maxwell and throws several hard kicks. Maxwell doesn't even bother to block or dodge, instead showing that Dani's attacks are ineffective. Aginestra! Dani leaps back and releases a burst of fire magic. The spell is absorbed into Maxwell's armor, instead of dealing damage. My physical defense is impervious to attacks, and all magical spells will be absorbed into my armor. Maxwell laughs. I have shut you out of a victory in an impossible-to-break lock. Dani fires several more offensive spells, but each is absorbed. Try all you want. You'll only empower me that much more, Maxwell laughs. Damn it, Dani thinks. He's more experienced than me. I fell right into his hands. I don't know enough spells to know of ways to counter more advanced techniques like this one. Dani, don't give up, Allura shouts. No spell or strategy is perfect. Magic must be balanced. His technique can't be all-powerful. He must have a weakness. He absorbs my spells and only becomes stronger. I should be able to deal physical damage, but the armor itself is boosting his defense. Think, girl, think. Dani grows frustrated. Give up yet? Maxwell asks. Here, let me help you speed up that decision. He conjures a lance in his arms. Aiming the lance at Dani, Maxwell concentrates the energy absorbed from the girl back at her in a beam of pure destructive magic. Dani dives for cover, narrowly evading the blast. He's given himself such an advantage that he does seem invincible. What the hell can I do? Dani wonders. Was all I went through for nothing? Is this where it ends for me? I have this opportunity dangled before my eyes, just to have it taken away like that? I freaking died to get to this point. I can't give up. I have to succeed and become a magician. Dani focuses all of her energy, preparing to attack. Maxwell senses the girl's aura rising. Doing the same thing over and over is insanity. You've already seen what I can do. Any spell you cast is just going to be absorbed by my armor. I'm not ready to give up. So shut your mouth and fight, Danny growls. Maxwell fires another burst of energy from his lance that Danny narrowly evades. Creonle! Danny doubles her speed and reflexes, leaping high into the air. Maxwell raises his lance to fire again, but Danny uses wind magic on her own feet to effectively run on the air. She dodges Maxwell's lance and flips into the space above him, upside down. Maxwell looks up, trying to bring his lance around to attack, but Danny touches her index finger to his forehead. Aginestra! Maxwell screams as the spell explodes point blank in his face and sends him crashing to the ground. Stupid outsider, Maxwell coughs, standing up with difficulty. Chunks of his armor break apart and vanish as they fall to the ground. You should have worn a helmet, too, Danny says, mockingly. Shut up! Maxwell screams, losing his temper. Shut your stupid mouth! You got a lucky shot in, that's all. Kanzi looks over to Vadas. She has some impressive skill. She is quite the battlefield tactician. I can see why you have taken an interest in her. Tamagai laughs. Yeah, that's why he's taken an interest in her. Vadas shoves him, his face turning red. Be quiet, he whispers. Did I miss something? Kanzi asks, confused. No, sir. The two officers begin to laugh. I'm worn out, Danny thinks. That last exchange took out a lot from both of us. I can't risk him using another spell that I've never seen before and being put at a disadvantage again. I need a way to end this fight now. Danny pictures a memory of her mother stressing out. She tries to pay her bills. Since they are behind in payments, her mother is forced to take out a payday loan to advance her money that she will not technically earn for another 2 weeks. Even though the money is what she would normally earn in the future, advancing it ends up costing her in interest fees, and she does not get as much back. When someone is desperate financially, they can become caught in a dangerous cycle such as this, and continuously need to advance their checks again and again to pay off the previous loans. Why did I think of that just now? It suddenly clicks to Danny that she has just invented a new spell due to her memories. Thanks, Mom. You finally taught me something worthwhile. Are you ready to end this? Maxwell growls, still holding on to his lance. I already have, Danny says calmly, taking a deep breath. Loan advance magic, 2 weeks at 10% interest. Danny's magical energy rises rapidly. I'm borrowing 2 weeks' worth of energy at a 10% rate. I will be unable to cast magic for 15.5 days after this spell. What? What are you talking about? Danny holds one hand out, channeling all of her energy. If you have any energy left to defend, I suggest you try to block this. Aginestra! Ahura! Maxwell screams as he is consumed by a torrent of magical fire. His lance dissolves, along with any remnants of his armor. As the energy subsides, he drops to the ground, barely clinging to life. Medics! Vadas screams. Several medical mages flash to Maxwell's side and immediately lace hands on him in order to heal his wounds. Danny drops to a knee, completely drained. Wow, she whispers, swaying in place as her eyes begin to close. That actually worked. She collapses to her face, out cold. Danny awakens 2 days later in the infirmary, under the care of the medical mage unit. Welcome back, Master Freya Danielson, administrator of the medical unit says. How long have I been out? Danny whispers, rubbing her head. 2 days. Your body was not prepared to deal with that big of a strain. You really put yourself through hell in that fight. Everyone watching was impressed. Did I win? Danny asks, confused. Freya laughs. Yes, you won it handily. Maxwell still has not regained consciousness. His wounds have been healed. He just needs more rest. Danny looks over to see the green robe of apprentice draped over a chair beside her. Is that mine? Masters Deoda and Forgeron enter the room, followed by Vadas, Allure, and Manel. I wanted to present it to you formally alongside everyone else that passed, but you've been asleep all this time recovering." "You did it," Allura shouts, hugging Danny tightly. "I knew you could do it." "Congratulations," Master Fordron says with a smile. "None of us doubted you. You impressed the elders so much that they immediately added your lone advanced magic to the archives. Several of the masters have even begun trying to reverse engineer the spell and attempt it themselves. That was a very powerful spell to be able to create on the fly like that in the middle of a battle," Vatus says. "And risky," Manel argues. "If that had not worked, you'd have been helpless to defend yourself against his attacks." "Leave her alone, she did great," Allura interrupts, sticking her tongue out at Manel. "Take as much time as you need to recover," Deoda says. "When you're ready, your official lessons will begin, Apprentice Livingston." Danny smiles widely. "I did it. I passed all of their tests. I rose above my shitty station in life. I was doomed to rot away in Rockland and turn out just like my mother, an alcoholic with no self-esteem and bad taste and abusive boyfriends. But I got away. I broke the cycle and actually got away. I'm a mage now." Outside the city of Endelgion lies the endless void of the astral realm. It is in this emptiness that undead beings exist, with a hunger for the essence of life. Revenants and creatures much worse prowl upon each other, eternally hunting for life to consume. A crack of light pierces the void. The overwhelming sensations of life flood into the darkness through the tiny fracture. The creatures are stirred up into a frenzy and begin slaughtering each other, vying for position closest to the smells of life leaking into their world.